Web3 incubation program, Sony and Aster. I was leading the entire thing. I'm super bullish about Polkadot, but I'm also realistic. If you want to build in Hong Kong, come find me. I'll set you up meetings with Cyberport. So many different subsidies. It's literally free money. Literally, people who breathe Polkadot, drink Polkadot, shower in Polkadot, sleep with Polkadot.
The launch team wishes you good luck and Godspeed.
Space Monkeys blasting off with Vincent. He's a founder and the director of Polkaport East, a decentralized futures-funded BD and growth initiative in Hong Kong, China, and the APAC region. I think you're really going to like this, and we're lucky to have him with us. Vincent, welcome to Space Monkeys.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
What are we sipping here? What? This is a native Polynesian liquor?
Oh, it's just water and ice.
Oh, that's what I meant. Yeah, that's what I meant to say. Yeah, it's delicious, and welcome to the show. Nice to have you here.
Thank you, yeah.
I'm glad we got to meet here. Obviously, a lot of action happening with Mandala Chain and the Indonesian government, but you have some government ties as well, I believe, which we're going to get into later in the show. But maybe you could give us just a little bit of an overview of your journey to this point. I know you worked with Parity, A Star. What's that look like?
My crypto journey kind of started off at Parity Tech. I was there around for a year and a half, leading a lot of these growth initiatives, got a lot of these initial parachains. I joined the team when parachains were not fully live on Polkadot.
Nice.
So it was a pretty interesting time seeing all these, parachains growing, becoming, they're actually become like reality.
That was an exciting time.
Yeah, it was euphoria. I mean, it was very exciting. You get like all these
supply shock coming. Remember that?
Yeah, so fun times. And after a year and a half of Parity, started working for one of the parachains in Polkadot, Aster Network. Was there for almost a year and a half as well, and led a lot of the growth initiatives there. Worked a lot with the enterprise side of things as well. So one of the interesting things that we did was, for example, I focused a lot on the enterprise side, built some good relationships with enterprise teams in Japan, for example, like Sony, and so also led a lot of those like BD initiative programs.
This was your doing, the Sony partnership and Toyota and all this?
Well, I can't take credit for everything,
of course,
right?
Of course.
But I spent a lot of time. So the first Web3 incubation program that's put together by Sony and Aster, I was leading the entire thing, and very, very fun. 200 teams applied, and we ended up picking like 20 teams that were providing their technology for Sony, and Sony was very excited as well because back like a year and a half ago, the Japanese government basically wanted to go all in Web3.
Yeah.
And the reason why was they felt like during in the Web2 space, they weren't able to capture a lot of that and bring them into Japan. Because when you think about the Web2 companies, it's all in Silicon Valley. So they're hoping that Web3 is going to be the thing for Japan. Same with every other government, right?
Same with here, right?
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
We want to be the Web3 hub. I mean, sure, that could work. It takes a lot of work. It's not easy. So that's why a lot of these like blue chip companies in Japan, like Toyota, Sony, you name it, are all exploring Web3. But of course, in Japan, reputation is very important. Nobody wants to go down because the token, or maybe some like token scams, or maybe like some, FUD. So that's why they're super careful, especially when it comes to launching tokens. And so it always works very well when you're working with these governments. Hey, let's start off with something very risk-free, like an incubation program, education, because if something doesn't go well, they could be like, hey, it's only like a joint partnership. Sure. That's it, right? So you're not like tied up. So it always starts off with that, education, then let's have a small collaboration. In this case was the incubation program. And after that, then, let's talk about something more deeper integration. So that's how it usually works. I think same with a lot of the countries, how the governments think about Web3 as well. They want to start off with something that's a bit risk-free.
Yeah.
So that was the case. And I was in Aster for a bit. And then April last year, just remember this. Right after I left Parity, I started thinking about Web3 in Hong Kong. Because the Hong Kong government was doing the same exact thing, right? Like, oh, there's this new crypto regime. And, we want to be the Web3 hub as well. So the government has been ramping up a lot on the Web3 side of things. And I was there And I saw a lot of these Web3 companies entering Hong Kong, establishing their base there. And I was very surprised to see that Polkadot was not there yet. So I thought to myself, okay, sure, I'm not a part of Parity right now, but I'm always a part of the Polkadot ecosystem. I'm also with Aster, so I should just do something. So I spoke with a lot of people in Parity, and was trying to figure out what exact angles we had. So I spoke with a lot of people with different teams, and eventually, thought about starting something that's a bit smaller, maybe started with like a conference. So that became the first annual inaugural Polkadot Hong Kong Day, which happened last October.
Okay.
Yeah, so invited a bunch of people in the ecosystem, Parity, Web3, investors like Skytail, and a bunch of people with their teams were there. It was a very well attended event. The government was there as well. Cyberport, Invest Hong Kong, and a bunch of family office and VCs.
Wow.
And that's when I thought, hey, this is actually a pretty well attended event. A lot of people are actually interested in, Polkadot, wants to learn more about that. And that's when I thought I should definitely do something in Hong Kong. Don't know what that is. So that's why I teamed up with a few people who are very embedded in Hong Kong. So there's Thibault from Bifrost, who leads strategy and growth for Bifrost, and Max from Harbor Industrial Capital, HIC. And that's why we got together and we started thinking about how we could push something like this, maybe through the Treasury or something else. And right after we had that meeting, surprise, Web3 Foundation came out, DF program.
Yes, beautiful.
Decentralized futures. Right? And we're like, wow,
it's like the sky's parted, eh?
Right, godsend, right? Isn't this like the perfect like thing that could just have happened?
Amazing.
So we jumped on it right away.
Yeah.
And a few months later, went back and forth a little bit, with different people in the ecosystem, with Web3 as well, to figure out, what's something that we could add value. How can we provide more value to Polkadot? And that's how Polkaport East was born.
Wow.
And we've been in operation for roughly May, June, almost 4 months already. And things have been going great, and we're ramping up a lot of interesting things. And
that's good. Let me highlight a few things that I heard there, because it sounds like you have a history of working with kind of delicate clients. It's a real white glove experience. Also a real long-term vision, right? You're not like flipping people, you're not flipping tokens or anything, but you're working multiple years to get to the point where it's something resembling the Web3 that we talk about in Polkadot.
Agreed.
And also your own initiative that you took, you built a reputation doing that. And when the opportunity of DF comes, there you are, you're ready to jump on it and start working for the ecosystem with your partners at Web3. So 4 months on the beat, what's popping up?
Too many things, right?
Really?
So like you just said, right? It's a long-term strategy. It's not something that's going to yield results in a week or in maybe a couple months.
Yeah.
So what we're trying to do here is build an initial foundation, like a very strong foundation.
Yeah.
We're focused on 3 things right now. Number 1, keeping existing DOT holders, whales happy.
Okay.
Number 2, trying to bring in fresh new investors.
Yeah.
That's doesn't really know Polkadot yet, because there's so many things out there. You hear about Polkadot, here and there, Twitter, and sometimes they're probably not the best way of understanding Polkadot, and they might take things out of context. And the third thing is connecting existing Polkadot teams to outside capital, VCs, investors, making sure the ecosystem is also properly supported. Yeah, especially after the recent decentralization efforts of Parity.
Of course,
we definitely want to make sure that projects are still feeling supported. And that's why, we're hoping that this initiative will help a lot of these projects continue to get supported, especially on the growth and funding, financial side of things. That's what we're focusing on.
The first one you said there, I thought it was interesting how you phrased it, keeping existing holders and whales happy. I'm observing 2 camps here. One camp understands the trajectory of Polkadot, and they're ready for what's to come. Obviously, a lot of exciting roll-ups connecting recently and coming up. But then there's another camp that, I don't know, there might be some churn there. How do you view that dichotomy, that situation? I'm
super bullish about Polkadot, but I'm also realistic as well.
Good,
I would like to think that, Polkadot, we have great tech, great people building, visionaries, but people outside Polkadot might not view us in that matter. And one of the reasons is because if you're an investor, what you care most about might not be, wow, that's a future like proof tech, right? It's more like, how many X could I get? Let's see.
In this
Market
quarter.
caps, I know 10 million. Could it pump like 20X? They're more on the financial side, and that's what I'm seeing right now. We're speaking to a lot of investors. They're very interested in like liquid investments. They're not planning to get married to a protocol or a project. They're here to invest, pump, get out.
Yeah.
So it's a different ball game that we're in, but that's why I think that's even more important to educate investors, to tell them that, okay, we're not building the coolest thing here.
Yeah.
It might not be as flashy, not a flashy sports car,
Yeah.
but our engines, our tech, our infrastructure is going to last many, many years. It's future proofed. As you can see, there's so many chains out there using Polkadot's tech.
I know.
It's free, it's open sourced.
Yeah.
Masquerading, we have a strong tech, but they never mention Substrate,
Okay,
which
yeah.
hurts, right?
And I took that personally.
No, for sure. People in the ecosystem have been working so hard. Hackathons, people building so many like useful palettes. People at Parity, Web3, all the research that we put in, millions, tens of millions of dollars we put in, like all these like prizes and treasury.
Yeah.
People could just take them and just walk around, and it's our tech, but
Okay.
we don't get credit for it. So it does hurt, whenever I hear things like that. So I hope things would, in the future, I think something that we should also do, we should try and find, projects out there that's using Polkadot's tech powered by Polkadot, but we should also get some reference, some brownie points from that as well.
Well, what do you think the play is? Do you think we focus our efforts on investors and projects with a longer term vision? Or do we play a little bit into the hands of the short term liquidity providers, which is also important?
That is $1 billion question.
Oh, yeah.
So what we're seeing right now is a lot of the chains out there, they're more short-term vision. They have these like very interesting incentivization campaigns, airdrops, point systems, and because of that, people they farm, they move their assets around, and you have this protocol that could pump up to 1 billion TVL or maybe more or less, and it works, and people are happy, and after the airdrop is done, people sell, they still keep like maybe 30-40%, 300-400 mil, which is not bad, So back to your question, I think having a long-term vision is super important. That's what we should all have. But I think it's important to have a shorter term vision where not everything we're building is made for the long term, but there should be things like a percentage of that's focused on the long term, while you have people that are building things that are closer to current narratives. Because one thing I've learned speaking to a lot of investors, you can sell them tech and stuff, but they care about narratives. Done. Whether that's DeFi, NFTs, right now we've got memes like they're popping right now, or RWA, tokenization, and DPIN.
Okay.
It's all narratives.
I see.
And that's how it works. Does it make sense? Not exactly. But when all the money's there, all the investors are looking at the same thing, you just have to follow the wind, the direction in some way. You don't have to be like all in the same direction, but you got to have projects that's, taking a bit of market share from that place as well.
Yeah.
Because if not, then we are not going to be as relevant as we want to be. Because I think we built a lot of cool tech in the past. There are a lot of narratives I feel like we weren't able to fully grasp. It's no one's fault. I'm not blaming anyone.
Sure.
This requires like an ecosystem effort. Not just a foundation or Parity, but everybody needs to be working together in a way that's very collaborative, and everybody needs to have the same goal in mind.
Yep.
Yeah. In Polkadot, it does happen sometimes, but it doesn't always happen the same, like the way that we would like. I see a lot of ecosystems out there. They're very united, and I think Polkadot really needs to be united if we want to be the next top 10, top 9, top 5, top 2, top 1 protocol out there.
Nice. Okay.
So, yeah.
Sick. Okay. Can you tell us about any of you've only been at it for a few months here, but can you tell us about any of the partners or organizations that you're in conversation with today?
Yeah, we're actually, I don't think I can mention their names yet, but
Okay.
one of the teams we're speaking with, they're a pretty large company in Japan.
Okay.
We had a conversation with them, and we didn't even try to sell Polkadot, right? We just spoke with them and told them, hey, what are we trying to build? They told us what they wanted to build. and we told them, things that we could do for them. And of course, we brought in a lot of people from different people in the ecosystem to also help with this conversation and to give them better understanding of Polkadot. So that's what we want. Like we would like to find out what they're building and provide them with good use cases of what we've done with other teams and how we can help them achieve their goals.
Yeah.
But that's more on the growth side. We're more focused on the IR side. But whenever we find a chance to close a deal, we close. I don't care if they're a marketing firm, if they're if they're a team that's building tech or infra or dApp or just meme coins protocols in general. Like I try to bring on to Polkadot. I don't think there's bad or good traffic. For me, we're focused more on IR and of course I think government relationships as well. And so ever since the Polkadot Day I mentioned last year, we hosted like events, invited governments. We have maintained a very close relationship with them. We also facilitate a lot of the PBA stuff because PBA was in Hong Kong. That's where we met as well.
That's where we met. That's right.
That was great. That was a great PBA.
It was. It was.
Gav was there. Everyone was there. Everyone was having a great time. The government was very happy as well.
Good.
Whenever I
good.
speak with them, hey Vincent, can you bring them over again?
Oh.
As much as I would love to, yeah, if that could happen in the future, if there's demand for it, and if it makes sense, I think 100% why not. So the government is very bullish on that as well, and they love PBA, and that's why we're able to facilitate that relationship as well. We helped a lot with the PBA stuff, speak with the government, put things together, put these events together, and and right now we are planning to have a deeper relationship with the government as well.
Of Hong Kong.
In Hong Kong, yeah.
What are their needs?
The government cares about a few things.
Yeah.
First is they want more, not just investments into projects, but they actually want companies, especially Web3 companies right now, to have their base or a part of the business in Hong Kong. So what does that mean? That pretty much means, Vincent, please bring in Polkadot teams, bring them into Hong Kong, find them a spot, get them an office space in Cyberport, even better, get them to join the Web3 community, even better. Get them to get involved in the Web3 space in Hong Kong and, get them to build interesting stuff, set up the company.
And do they need to live in Hong Kong right now, or can you import teams?
Well, ideally, of course, the government will bring your entire team, ship them to Hong Kong.
What else is the Cyberport for, right?
It is, yeah. But of course, it's not easy moving your entire team in day one, right?
No, of course, sir.
I think it's quite easy. We're actually in talks with a couple of teams in Polkadot right now. We're trying to get them to, all right, just come over, start your company, literally incorporate your company. You don't have to bring your entire team here.
Yeah,
hire maybe a person. Start, bringing a person first, and start maybe trying to hire talent in Hong Kong. So that's what the government wants. They want to hire talent in Hong Kong, and the government also has so many different subsidies. It's literally free money. Literally. If you want to build in Hong Kong, come find me. I'll set you up meetings with Cyberport, investors, everyone you want to talk to. And
awesome.
And I can set you up, introduce the companies to incorporate your company, all the connections you need. The government is actually even sponsoring employees if they are from Hong Kong. So let's say, your Web3 company comes to Hong Kong and you hire people from Hong Kong, and the government sponsors a part of their salary. So
wow,
there's nothing else to think of. Right?
Hong Kong's not a bad place to live either. It's quite enjoyable.
Is very, very low.
Okay, all right, okay. Say less. That's
exactly.
Awesome. One of the big themes here in Indonesia is the government actually wants to leverage blockchain to improve the lives of its citizens and the efficiency of government. But it doesn't really sound like that's the mission of the Hong Kong government. It's more like we want to just attract kind of talent in business. Or am I wrong there? Is there some...
If they wanted to target everything, if they could, they would pick it all, right?
Okay.
So I think what the government also wants to see is how some of the strategy they're pushing in Hong Kong, for example, RWA, tokenization, DPIN, how could projects actually build on their vision, build on their direction? So let's say the government is very interested in, let's say, we want DPIN, we want tokenization, and a team comes in and builds the best solution, they'll be super happy.
Okay.
100%, right? There's so many things that could happen in Hong Kong. So recently I did speak to, people in the ecosystem. This is just an example, right? How Web3 can actually literally change how business works, lives of many people. It's not just like, hey, let's create let's have POAPs, NFTs, that's tickets. Hey, don't get me wrong, that's great.
No, I get it. Yeah, I get it.
That's
I get
great.
it. Yeah.
But is it gonna really change our lives? I don't think so, right? So I think one of the huge values of Web3 is how can it unlock value from technology or from businesses that are kind of stagnant.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So one good example is taxi license. So taxi license in Hong Kong,
Yeah.
they don't come up with new taxi license in Hong Kong every single year. They stopped doing that for a couple of years already.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, if you want to own a taxi, you need to have a taxi license.
I see.
And it used to be close to 1 million US per license.
Wow.
We could see that people that own taxi license or maybe taxi drivers or people in the industry are not super happy, right? If you held an investment which was 1 mil, it's like 50% now. You're like, it's definitely not a good time. Okay, think of it as like an investment that brings you stable yield.
Okay.
It's pretty stable, right? It's like properties. You rent a house, you get like 3-4% yield.
Okay, yeah.
Same with taxis,
You have
right?
the employee who drives the car and all this stuff, right? Yeah.
So if like people could become taxi drivers, like I could be one, you could be one, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we would pay rent, so daily rent. So eventually that comes up to X amount of dollars a year, and that's a yield. And from that you can calculate the percentage, like the yield you would get from the like taxi license. And yield went up 50% at least, right? Because the taxi license prices went down.
I see.
So if somebody really wanted to invest in some like stable assets, they could just buy out the license, which would be very expensive, right?
Yeah.
I couldn't afford it, 400K, 500K.
I know.
But imagine if it's broken up, tokenized
there you go.
in, I don't know, 1,000 pieces,
All right.
1 million pieces,
Easily done. Yeah.
and then have an exchange for that. Then anybody with maybe $100 can just come in. I'm just gonna buy 0.01 tokens, or maybe I'll buy like 0.01% of the taxi license.
That's awesome. That's cool.
And you just open up an entire market.
Yeah.
And you're unlocking so much value there. It's like an asset that's actually not that liquid. Now you're actually like turning into like pure liquid.
Totally.
Now I just need a wallet, need an exchange.
And it would be open to the world too.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
That's the best part.
That's
Now,
so cool.
Cool thing about Web3 and blockchain is, we all love that transaction fees, loyalties. Now imagine that transaction goes up, people start buying it. There's going to be a ton of like loyalties there.
Sure.
I don't know, like where would all these loyalties go to? Probably to some of these, like it would go to some of these taxi drivers. But imagine if the government was also facilitating this technology, and maybe the government could even have a fund where some of these loyalties go to a place where it could be given for like tourists in Hong Kong in the future, right? Hey, come to Hong Kong. Maybe if you're a tourist, you can prove that you're a tourist. There's a chance to win an X amount of money, and then that would come from some of these like loyalties. I mean, I'm just like talking out of my head right now.
That's awesome.
There are a lot of assets right now that's just very illiquid. But by turning Web3, by integrating Web3, it suddenly becomes the most liquid thing ever. And a lot of people can get access to it. You open up like a huge economy, and maybe like you have to hire people to manage the exchange, and you can grow an entire job market from that. I mean, that's only with taxi license, right? Having this Web3 thing in Hong Kong could also benefit a lot of projects in the future that's looking to expand into nearby markets, like a stepping stone, cornerstone.
A stepping stone. So we kind of build it, incubate it in Hong Kong, and that the real successes could really permeate into mainland China. Is this kind of what you're talking
Yeah,
about?
Hong Kong is more like a sandbox.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Cool.
So if it goes viral in China, and if it goes viral in Hong Kong, they could take it back and implement a good piece of it, like the parts that work very well.
And do you personally have contacts in China, or is it more like your contacts in Hong Kong talk about the success stories kind of propagating?
I mean, we do have some contacts in China, but of course Hong Kong is our main market.
Yeah, right. As you're trying to increase your Rolodex, get new contacts, what's the main strategy here? How does this work?
I mean, it's like marketing, right? It's a cost center.
Yeah, right.
But I mean, there are definitely ideas we have. But for example, if we could, syndicate, bring in deals. Hey, you guys want to invest? I bring an investor. I find it, put you guys together, and then we get a share of it. I mean, or some tokens. It's possible, but it's very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're just playing around with different ideas, but that's just one of them. That's not been tested yet.
Do you have any visibility or opinion on maybe the difference between how people are thinking about Web3 and investing in Web3 in Hong Kong and the East versus maybe more of an American or European-centric vision? that most of the audience of this show, although we do have audience in India and Pakistan and these places, but most of our audience is actually from America. So what might surprise them?
I think when it comes to investing, people or investors in Hong Kong definitely have, I would say, a different view or a different thesis versus European investors, American investors, or other from other countries. I was able to attend a very interesting lunch on around like 2 months ago.
Yeah.
Invited by the government, and it was like a lunch on that's surrounded by a couple dozens of like VCs in Hong Kong, top VCs. A lot of these VCs are from banks, family offices, basically a lot of them, VCs, investors, private equity. Point of that lunch on was trying to bring together traditional investors, try to find investors as well, and to try to bring them into Web3. So there are some education sessions on Web3. One of the funds came out and talked about Web3, what Web3 is, benefits, that kind of stuff. So it was very interesting.
Yeah.
And so I did a lot of networking and I spoke with a lot of these investors on the traditional side. And whenever I speak with them, ask them about, hey, what are you guys looking to invest in? Let's chat. Polkadot is great. One of the recurring themes I'm hearing is they would prefer to invest in things that's more regulated. So that could mean traditional finance, like rails and infrastructure and that payments, that kind of thing. So things that's not like very Web3, but Web 2.5 ish.
Cool.
So that's what I've been hearing a lot.
All right.
And one of the focuses one of the things I'm hearing is they're looking at liquid investments versus like equity, because it's hard. It's not as liquid, right? Mm-hmm. But when you speak to American investors or foreign investors that's outside of Hong Kong, okay, we'll invest in. Oh, that sounds degen enough. No, sounds good. That sounds like a good. Sounds pretty good. If it sounds good, then we'll speak to them and we'll figure it out. So make us a good deal and we'll figure it out. The more interesting, the more crazier, the more we would want to invest in.
I see.
Traditional payment rails. Boring.
Okay, I see.
That kind of thing. So I could also see how investors in Hong Kong are also a bit more cautious. It's not necessarily a bad thing, right? I mean, they're cautious for a reason.
Yeah.
That's what I can see from speaking with investors from different backgrounds.
Can you dig a little deeper and tell us more about the specific initiatives that you're doing, getting people together? Well, what does this actually look like on the ground?
First off is setting a foundation. And to set up a foundation, that means giving more Polkadot presence in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
Polkadot doesn't have that much presence yet. So what we're trying to do is having these, start off with some very casual, very light monthly meetups that we hold every single month. Usually the first week of the month, and we have our contacts, bringing people from bringing governments, people from TradFi space, investors, just people who are interested in Web3, university students. Just bring all of them together in a small area and just talk about tech, Polkadot. That's it. We're not going to sell you Polkadot. I'm not going to force you to invest into companies. But it's more like a very light way of understanding what Polkadot is. So we usually have speeches, and we would sometimes co-organize these events with different ecosystems in Hong Kong. For example, we did one with EZA last month. A great hackathon team, hackathon partner.
They're awesome.
They're amazing. They're going to be doing a lot of things. I don't know if this is an alpha, but we're going to be collaborating with them on Consensus is going to be in Hong Kong next year. It's in February.
What?
Yes.
Consensus is coming to Hong Kong?
Consensus is in Hong Kong, is in my turf.
What?
Yes.
Okay, I thought they were going to be in Toronto, but they're doing two events. They stole it from Toronto.
Oh, I don't know about that. But I know they're going to be in Hong Kong. It's confirmed. It's in the
awesome.
Hong Kong Convention Center.
Yeah, sick.
So we're speaking very close with organizers, with different parties in Hong Kong, EZA. We're trying to put together a great Polkadot event in Hong Kong. And, since we have a strong connection there, that's what we want to do. So make sure you come to Hong Kong for Consensus. Come find me. We'll grab some drinks. I'll show you a good time. Check out the nice areas in Hong Kong, nice bars in Hong Kong. And we'll talk about Polkadot. So Polkadot monthly meetups, that's one of the things. And we also have these fireside chats. We had one back in April during Hong Kong Web3 Festival. And so we brought in, ecosystem teams, fireside chat, less casual, a little bit more formal, panelists sitting on stage and talk about like tech and Polkadot. We try to invite like different teams every single time, and that's more of like a developer kind of, both, but it's a bit more techie as well.
Yeah.
So that's for a different crowd. And the third thing that we have is with some of the more important people, not important people, but important focuses of our mandate, which is bringing more investors into Polkadot. So we have these like exclusive private dinners or private lunches with investors. And we every time we have these dinners, we try to bring in Polkadot maxis, diehard Polkadot fans, people who breathe Polkadot, drink Polkadot, shower in Polkadot, sleep with Polkadot. And we bring them together, and we bring in investors that doesn't know much about Polkadot or wants to learn more about Polkadot. Okay. And the third team is we bring in like ecosystem teams, because where else can you find people that understand more about Polkadot's tech, developers and the builders, right? So founders of these like companies, and of course us, Polkaport East, will be there to facilitate this. Wow. So that's like some of the three main things that we do. And we hope that by having all these three different events, we're targeting three different groups of people, and we could build a strong foundation in Hong Kong. And eventually that would snowball to something. And that's when we could see results. That's when we can see more liquidity flowing into Polkadot. So that's like the ultimate goal that we want. This is not the ultimate goal, but it's one of the first milestones that we have to achieve what we want. And after that, I think we have more ideas. But for now, I think this is let's not talk too far. Let's talk about focus on what we can improve, things that we can actually do that can help Polkadot right now. Let's focus on that first. Yeah.
That is awesome, man. Hey, where can people follow you, for all the alpha? How do people find out what you're doing?
Follow us on Twitter, Polkaport_East. I think
they're gonna be tagged. You're gonna be tagged above,
And follow me on Twitter or ping me on Telegram. I'm trying to be involved in more Polkadot related groups right now. In the past I haven't been that outspoken in Polkadot, but I think especially with this new DF initiative, me or everyone else should be more actively shilling Polkadot.
Awesome.
And just like singing praises of Polkadot.
Well, it's nice to have your face on the show and get to hear about your unique perspective and everything you're doing for Polkadot. Thanks very much for working so hard for us, and thank you for coming on Space Monkeys to tell us all about it.
Thank you, Jay. Really appreciate this, and let's chat soon.